Well, today's cold startup on the 2017 Aprilia Tuono V4 1100 factory is going to be extra special because we're going to be talking about this SC Project CRT exhaust and what I think about it and whether or not you might want to buy one. Hi, I'm Chad and welcome to virtual reality. So the entirety of today's video is in virtual reality because, of course, we are rolling with the SC Project CRT exhaust on my 2017 Aprilia Tuono V4 1100 factory. And today, I'm going to share my thoughts with you on the exhaust, how obnoxious it is, and hopefully give you some direction on whether or not you might want to buy this exhaust for your motorcycle. So first, let me tell you a little bit about how I got this exhaust, because I didn't buy it. It actually came on this bike when I purchased it. Prior to this Tuono V4 factory that I've had for over a year and a half now, year and 9 months I believe, I had a 2017 Tuono V4 RR that had a Graves slip-on exhaust. And I really liked that Graves exhaust. It was loud, but not blow your eardrums out loud like this is. I remember when I went to go see this bike for the first time and I started it up in the guy's apartment complex that was selling it. Hey Jordan, if you're watching any of my videos, not sure if you are, but hope you're doing well, man. But when I started this bike up in his apartment complex, I was a little embarrassed because it was so loud. And honestly, I was like, you know what? This is pretty gnarly, but I have an exhaust that I could swap over from my other Tuono before I sell it, because that was my plan. I bought this bike to get it off the market. Actually, this bike wasn't even on the market. It had been, but had been removed, and I was able to contact Jordan through Aprilia for him and made a deal with him that way. But nevertheless, wanted to get this bike all squared away, take ownership of it before selling my Tuono RR. So, had it at home, could have easily swapped over the Graves exhaust. And when I took this out for a test ride, at first at low RPM I was like, oh man, this thing is just so obnoxious. But as soon as I crossed over 5,000–6,000 RPM, my thoughts changed, because it just sounded like a MotoGP bike. So while it is very guttural and kind of tinny at low RPM, as you get higher up into the rev range, it definitely smooths out a bit, sounds a lot crisper, but again, just with extreme volume. So knowing that I didn't need to make a decision on this bike based on the exhaust, and even if I didn't have another Tuono at the time that had another exhaust, I very easily could have just gone and bought another exhaust for this thing. That Graves exhaust actually is a steal if you ask me. Oh, look at the lush vines. Beautiful. But yeah, so the exhaust was a bit inconsequential. I knew it wasn't permanent. That said, riding this thing home, and of course doing some simulated pulls in virtual reality afterwards, I came to realize that this bike was wild with this exhaust. And I toyed around with the idea of swapping the Graves onto this bike, putting the CRT on the RR before I sold it, but ultimately I just kind of didn't do anything about it, because at the end of the day, I kind of like the CRT, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, it is absolutely obnoxious. I can't deny that. It is the loudest machine I have ever owned by and far in my entire life. It's silly. It's louder than my race bike is. It's louder than any car that I've owned. I'm pretty sure it's the loudest vehicle in my neighborhood by a long shot. And you'd be hard pressed to find another motorcycle, or in a lot of cases even a car, that's gonna be as loud as this thing is with the CRT, unless it's just straight piped. This exhaust is basically a straight pipe. It does have a tiny little bit of packing in the, I don't even know if you can call it a muffler, the giant beer can that's on the end of it. But that does help it produce a very nice sound when you get into the higher rev range. One of the other things that I really like about the CRT is it looks awesome. Now, I have the extra short one on my bike. Again, didn't pick that. It's just what came on the machine. But it looks sweet, I think. It's very simple. It's short. The short can lines up very nicely with the swing arm. And I think it actually helps preserve the beautiful tail section, especially on the factory model Tuono V4 and RS V4 for that matter. Yeah, I think it's a very good looking exhaust personally. So in light of that, it's a different sound than all the other slip-on exhausts that are full length with a big muffler. I'm not talking about like the Austin Racing or the Race Fit exhausts that are similar to the CRT. They all sound pretty much the same, but that kind of exhaust compared to a more traditional aftermarket exhaust with a larger silencer that's a bit longer, this pipe sounds much more raw. I don't really have a better way to describe it than that. Like I said, it's just very guttural at low RPM, and then it's just a thunderstorm when you get into the high RPM. It's crazy. Ah, there's sand here. Good thing I caught that. Ooh, look, an airplane. How about that? So the upside of it being so loud is people can hear you coming from a mile away and for at least a mile after you're gone. So if you're concerned about riding on the street, and just to make it clear, there's no way this thing is going to pass any kind of noise emission certification for public road use. But if you want to be extra, I guess visible isn't the right word, but call more attention to yourself, this is the exhaust to do it with. Now, I do try to be courteous to my neighbors with this bike. While I do obviously start it up in my driveway to get ready to go for the ride, I don't rev it. It's just fire it up, point it at my house, so my house gets all the noise and probably reverberates a little bit, but at least it's better than direct sound. But one of the upsides, and the upside that I was getting to a second ago, is that people can always hear you, which can be helpful if you're in traffic, lane splitting. You're hoping somebody will hear you and be able to get out of your way before you get to them. It's good for that too. But on the flip side of that, if you are daily riding your Tuono, or probably any bike that has a CRT, you're riding for more than 30-45 minutes at a time, you might get tired of it pretty quickly, unless you just like a lot of sound. And definitely wear earplugs if you have this exhaust. You should be wearing earplugs if you're riding a motorcycle, regardless if you care about your hearing and want to keep it long term, but especially with this exhaust. Earplugs required. The earplugs will help a little bit with the fatigue that your brain is going to get in your body overall, just from being exposed to such a high volume of sound for such a long time. And it makes a huge difference. Again, regardless of whether or not you have an exhaust like this, but especially if you have an exhaust like this. So if I had purchased my Tuono V4 with a stock exhaust, would I have gone and purchased a CRT? Probably not. I think the oval race or the SC1 or SC1R pipe that SC Project makes sounds really good and doesn't look too bad. Might have even gone for another Graves pipe. That exhaust sounded sweet and looked pretty cool too, in my opinion. But clearly I didn't feel like I needed to get rid of this, and To be totally honest, it does make the bike feel a little bit more special in my opinion. It's a lot more of an experience to ride this than I think it would be with a stock exhaust or some other exhausts that are out there. That's not to say this is the best exhaust for the bike. I don't think that's true. But will it make you giggle and put a big smile on your face while deafening you at the same time? Absolutely. Yeehaw. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd sincerely appreciate a gentle little click of the like button. And if you consider subscribing for more Aprilia and motorcycling content like this, drop a comment below. Do you have the CRT? Have you had a CRT? Do you think I'm ridiculous for running this thing? Let's talk about it below. Thanks again so much for watching. I'll hope to catch you in the next one. Until then, later.